So we should probably introduce and say that we're going to be complaining about Vaush today, or Vaush if you're not happy with him. And I've got Catherine Klein here with me, or I'm with Catherine Klein. It depends how this is going to go. We're together, and we're going to talk about Vaush, which is, you know, he's just so great, you know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's go.
He's a real one.
So not too long ago, he did a debate with another content creator called Irrelevant, talking about Hassan B, who bought like a $3 million mansion.
Yep.
And yeah, well, basically, I don't think this is a straw man to say that Vaush doesn't care if someone's hypocritical. I don't know what he cares about, to be honest with you. Like, for me, like, of course you care about someone being hypocritical because that means that they aren't engaging in behavior that you want them to engage in. So there is a problem if they're acting hypocritically. But anyway, let's go through it.
I don't know what it means to live your principles. Do capitalists not buy from subsidized industries? Do people who believe that animals have feelings not buy meat? This is the same argument that I had with the vegans. And like with the vegans, it feels like they're more motivated by feeling better than the people they dislike than they are by making an affirmative change. Which is why I'm okay with the good vegans, the ones who say, hey, maybe try not eating meat on Tuesday.
So he essentially says he doesn't understand what it means to live your principles.
I don't get it.
Like, and he has such a visceral reaction to like hypocrisy, the word hypocrisy, being called a hypocrite. He's okay with being a hypocrite almost. Like, he thinks that's fine.
I don't understand.
I don't really understand either.
Do people who believe that animals have feelings not buy meat? This is the same argument that I had with the vegans. And like,
yeah, they do realize that animals have feelings, and that's like a problem. It's like, if you realize these individuals have feelings and you're literally buying into an industry that profits solely off their feelings not being acknowledged and respected, and them literally having their autonomy violated, and then having them like murdered in the masses, that is a hypocrisy, and that's a bad thing. And do you know why it's a bad thing? Because it leads to animals, for example, being murdered. If people weren't being hypocrites, then maybe we'd see a world where animals weren't getting murdered, ding dong.
This would be a good time to show that vegan sidekick comic. Yes. This is literally Vosh right now.
Vegans are so self-righteous. What does that mean? You think you're better than other people? No, I just don't want to harm animals. Yeah, well, you just do that because you think it makes you right, and then you feel proud of yourself. Yeah, that's called having a conscience. What's the alternative? Do what I know is harmful and then feel bad about it? Yeah. Oh my God.
That's literally him. He's like, well, I feel bad about it. Like, he thinks the industry is terrible, and he literally said that he wants to ban meat. If he had the power to ban meat, he would. So he thinks that eating meat and feeling bad about it is the same as, or is actually better than vegans, like, recognizing that they're being a hypocrite and then changing their behavior.
Oh God, it just stands to display why being concerned with hypocrisy is a good thing.
With the vegans, it feels like they're more motivated by feeling better than the people they dislike than they are by making an affirmative change.
More motivated by feeling better than the people we dislike.
Yeah, how can he say that? Like, how can he claim to know the motivations of vegans?
Not only claim to know the motivation of vegans, but to claim to know how we feel about every single person who eats animals. That's amazing. It's not just the case that when someone eats animals, I suddenly dislike them. I dislike the action. This is so charged with nonsense. I can't believe he felt confident to say this.
It's like, yeah, we don't actually think that our behavior is making positive changes in the world. We're just doing it to feel better than other people. Like,
yeah, and like, if I wanted to genuinely feel better than other people, not being funny, but I'd probably start up like a left-wing channel, because that's more popular than being a vegan, because like, you get so much more praise, you get so many more subscribers, so many more people agree with you, so you can feel superior because you got so many more people validating that. Whereas when you're a vegan, yeah, you have some people validating you, like often, you know, vegans, but a lot of the time you have people who actively engage in behavior that would demonstrate they really dislike you and think you're disgusting, they think you're horrible. You have people accusing us of being like colonizers and everything, like left, right and center, because we don't want to like eat animals. Don't you think that the up to 2.7 trillion animals being killed every single year, being exploited every single year, don't you think that, oh, what a wild idea that some people like ourselves might think that takes precedence over how great we might feel? Like, not everything, like, is it the case that Vaush thinks everything's kind of like a power play, you know, to kind of like, he was having a debate with someone saying everything's kind of like a power play and, you know, you're serving your interests. Well, not everyone thinks like that, Vosh. Some people actually give a shit about others and want to act in their interests as well. They might think, oh yeah, well, it would be pleasurable to eat this burger that's just in this shop that's right next to me. That would be really convenient to me. But oh, hang on, that's the corpse of a once sentient being. So they had to have their entire existence taken away from them. So maybe we should consider not enabling those systems to take place. Like, yes, it does exist that some of us do give a shit about others, Vosh. I know, weird, but bear with us.
Also, okay, but apply this to all the other social justice movements he advocates for.
I know.
Like, is he just advocating for trans rights to make himself feel better than other people? Like,
I think...
oh, you're only criticizing, what's his face? I don't know.
Ben Shapiro?
Transphobic. Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder. Yeah, you're only criticizing them because, or you're only speaking up for trans people because you want to feel better than Steven Crowder. Like,
maybe that is just projection.
Like,
maybe he is projecting what he does onto us. Maybe he thinks, well, I couldn't think of a reason why you wouldn't do something for a self-serving interest solely. So obviously they're just trying to do it. They dislike the non-vegans and they're obviously just trying to feel better than us.
They are by making an affirmative change. Which is why I'm okay with the good vegans, the ones who say, hey, maybe try not eating meat on Tuesdays.
So to be a good vegan, you have to advocate for not veganism. I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of, I just can't take it anymore, Catherine. I'm like so done with people. Like, they're just this absolute, oh, I love the good vegans who don't advocate for their own movement, who don't advocate for the animal rights to actually be upheld. You know, that entire thing that encompasses their movement. Me, I can't.
Vaush is a socialist. He advocates for socialism, which clearly triggers a lot of people, right? So should he abandon his advocacy for socialism in favor of social democracy to appease conservatives?
And this is what I don't get, because he's so against, like, because if you look on the left, you've got like tankies and all that, and he actively hates the tankies. He's like, no, he's like, no, we need to gatekeep and really make sure that people have these specific values, because otherwise, you know, they're left leaning and they end up being a tanky or something like that. He's actively against that. Yeah, if a vegan comes along and goes, no, we need people actually upholding animal rights. We don't need someone who on Tuesdays is plant-based, because that's not enough for those animals. So it's like, what do you believe?
Yeah, I hate this idea, and I think he talks about this later, which we'll react to that as well. But like, I hate this idea that vegans are supposed to advocate for not veganism, like for reducitarianism. It's like, okay, reducitarians will advocate for reducitarianism.
Yes.
Why do I, a vegan, have to advocate for reducitarianism? No, I'm going to advocate for veganism because that's my position. It's like my socialist analogy, like, should all socialists just abandon advocating for socialism?
Or, you know, when he's having a debate with someone who's homophobic, oh, you know what, I can't get you to stop hating the lesbos, but you know what, if you could just like Ellie, you know, for literally like one day of the week, if you could just like grant her the basic, you know, like, you know, right to marry in your mind, if you allow that one day, would that be enough? Like, off, you would not allow it. This would not fly. It's just guilt leaking out of every pore of his body, and he's projecting it onto us. That's all I can think it is.
And it also, that reminds me of, in the States at least, when gay marriage was legalized like a decade ago or something, there was this whole argument about we have to protect the sanctity of marriage, and and then there was like a half measure where let's let them have a civil union.
Yeah,
like they can still get the tax benefits, but let's call it a civil union. We can't call it marriage. And it's like,
And
that's not advocating for equality. That's advocating for it perpetuates the idea that it's not a real marriage.
Exactly. And it is rooted in homophobia, because obviously atheists can get married as long as they're straight. So it's like, well, that's not the sanctity of marriage if people who literally don't even believe in God are getting married under his name. Like, please. Right. So yeah.
And sure, a civil union is better than not letting them get a civil union.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't advocate for gay marriage. Like,
well, according to Vaush, you should. That's enough. Like, that would be a good, gay rights activist. If I were to go out and just be like, look, can we just have just a teeny little cheeky civil union, and we'll only do it on a Wednesday. Only on a Wednesday do you have to deal with the gays. Every other day, you can pretend that we don't. That's fine. Like, please. I'm suffering an aneurysm already. Right. Let's see if he says anything else.
Maybe we could cook this meal together.
Maybe we could cook this meal together. This is what's terrifying to me, okay? Because he says, oh, maybe, we could cook this meal together. Like, it is possible to be consistent in your values and to be against something and be like, look, can you not do that? That's wrong. Let's cook a meal together. Let's enjoy. You can see all these things that you could have without exploiting these animals. Why are you a good vegan if you don't advocate for veganism? And why is it not possible for vegans to also do some of these things you're talking about? And why are these things specifically good? Because it sounds like they're just things that don't challenge your worldview and make you feel bad.
I would also add that when it comes to people in real life, when it comes to people that I am not super close with, but maybe they're an acquaintance or a extended family member, I'm not going to be super straight up with them like I would be with someone I'm close to, because that wouldn't really work. I do those things that he's suggesting. I'll be like, hey, do you want to go to this restaurant that happens to be vegan? I suggest vegan restaurants. I might, if they really like nachos, I might suggest a super delicious nacho cheese recipe. I'm not berating people, But when it comes to my advocacy on my channel, I'm speaking to a general audience. There's no way I can perfectly tailor my message to everyone, to meet everyone where they're at, because people are at different places.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak the truth, knowing that it will resonate with some people and it won't resonate with others, because like I said, they're at different levels. And Vosh does the exact same thing on his channel. Some people who watch him are going to think he's batshit and way too far to the left, but his message is going to resonate with people who are ready to hear that message. Hunter Avallone, perfect example. If you believe in something, you should advocate for it honestly, and it's going to resonate with the people who are ready to hear it. I just you can't apply certain context to every context, if that makes sense.
No, you can't. He's probably he's probably the same in real life, isn't he? Because with my kind of style of doing it, I react on streams to things, and I do it in a very similar way. And when someone comes to debate me, when they come and with the knowledge that they're about to debate this topic, it's okay, well, there's an expectation here that you better have good arguments. You better be ready to have this conversation, and I'm going to be harsher because this is the environment to hear it. And he probably does the exact same thing, where in real life he wouldn't go through political theory and call people idiots. It's funny because he's harsher than I am, but if he saw my stuff or even your stuff, you're way nicer than I am, but I get a bit sassy. But he will full on just call people idiots. He'll say they're insane, psychotic and stuff like that. So it's well, it's you're worse, but a vegan comes along, does the exact same thing you do, then oh my god, they are one of the bad vegans. Define bad vegan. I don't understand. There's so much wrong.
Normative arguments that change people's minds, not just an excuse to feel better than the people who you think aren't living up to their principles.
So this doesn't even work. That's claim, say things that are going to change people's minds. That wouldn't, that doesn't work, because it is the case.
It's not universal. Yeah.
It's the case that it will change people's minds. If I go, listen here, you f***ing just get your act together, stop being a twat to the animals, sort it out. Some people need to hear it like that. They do. There have been so many vegans. Obviously this is anecdotal, but we can apply this to basically anything where someone's shamed into not buying from a certain company because they, are like, when you find out, oh my God, that company's homophobic, the people do it all the time. Like, that cupcake shop that was like homophobic. So people were like, you can't be buying from there. They're like, these are evil people. It's like when you're shamed because you've done something, rather, it could be really powerful on your psyche on whether or not you do that again. Like, it can be something that's just really moves people. So to say, oh, well, you're not effective if you do it this way. I don't know why so many ding-dongs say this, like as if this is even true, because if this were the case, he would have to stop doing precisely what he does, because he shames people and like he literally, like, he went like softer on Hunter Avalone, but he still shamed him, like being like, this is like homophobic, this is transphobic to have these views, and look, it changed his mind. And it's like, well, then sorry, if you think it doesn't work, then why are you doing literally what you do all day, every day? My God.
Yeah. Like I said, he repeats a lot of the same talking points.
Yeah, this entire 3 hours, 50-minute debate was very circular. It was, I wouldn't recommend watching this one because it was pretty painful.
I feel like if anybody's attributing points here that don't belong to somebody, it's you to me. I haven't, you're like talking about vegans here and stuff like this. Listen, and you're trying to say that I really hate Hassan here. I mean, I've gotten into trouble saying that.
Disproportionate.
Yeah, that's the thing with Vaush. It's not just the vegans that he like rags on and assigns all these like motivations to. He does it literally a lot of the time with the people he's debating. Like, he'll just assert that they dislike or have hatred towards a person. I'm sorry if you have dislike and hatred towards everybody you call out, but that's kind of your problem. It's not the case. Like, some of us can. It's quite difficult for me if I see someone just being so plainly and clearly like horrific to animals to like them. But there are non-vegans I like. It's not the case that the attribute of being a non-vegan means I don't like someone. So just to clarify that a lot of what he asserts is based in fucking fairyland. Like, I don't know what, like, he pulls this out of his rectum and then tries to make a point out of it. It's painful.
He goes on and on about how like it's not fair that socialists are held to higher standards. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wanted to make a point about that before we jump to the next timestamp. Like, I kind of get what he's saying. It is a little bit frustrating when like vegan activists, for example, are held to like ridiculously high standards compared to everyone else. I guess that would relate to like socialists as well, like socialist influencers or whatever. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, I think that it makes sense to hold them to higher standards because,
it does.
For example, like the reason we're not going after Ben Shapiro for his $1 million mansion is because he's kind of a lost cause. Like, do you know about that $1 million vegan campaign by chance?
Yeah, the one where they'll give $1 million to a celebrity to try veganism for 30 days.
Yes, so I think it was like directed at Trump when he was president. And I just thought that was so stupid because like you're not going to convince someone like Donald Trump to empathize with animals.
No, and he said something, it's just like, a wasted effort. He like self-owned, like, because he was like, if I lose one more brain cell, that'll be horrific for America.
Oh God, I didn't hear about that. That's hilarious.
Oh God, it's bad.
But no, like we criticize the people within our communities. We criticize them, the people who profess these values that we're promoting. Mm-hmm. So like there's a difference between Ben Shapiro criticizing Hassan and leftists criticizing Hassan, because Ben Shapiro doesn't live by those standards. He's just trying to make like a sick hypocrisy burn.
Yeah.
But for me to criticize him, I feel like that's fair because I am only holding him to standards that I live up to. And it's the same thing with veganism. Like, if a vegan is trying to hold me to a higher standard that they are living up to, like, maybe I should listen to their arguments. But if a non-vegan is telling me that I'm a hypocrite because I don't live up to this standard of perfection, like, I'm going to ignore them.
Yeah,
so Vaush is like acting like conservatives who are bashing Hassan. He's equating that with leftists who are actually giving valid criticism. Yeah. And I think those are two very different things.
Absolutely. And we could boil it down to like, just like without any political alignment or any lifestyle. Say, for example, you have two people in a row. So say you have me And then you have someone who's just known for being like a horrible person. He steals, he's horrific, he harasses people. And I would say, like, people might think I'm horrible, but like, I'm not, I don't steal from people or harass people. Do you know what I mean? So there's this kind of understanding that there's a standard that I've put out to people of who I am or who I think I am and what they can expect from me. If we were to both do the same action, so we were to both go to our next door neighbor and steal from them, it would be a very different, though the outcome is the same, someone's got stolen from, the criticism that I could expect to see would be so much more than the person who it was expected of. Because I've shown these lived standards, I've said things about, you know, how we ought behave. So the hypocrisy is making it all the more worse. And when someone is willing to be hypocritical, they're less trustworthy. Everything they stood for becomes a lie. And that does mean something. And the fact that Vosh is not interested in it, I mean, good for you, but contextually speaking, social interaction does take into account hypocrisy a lot. Like, oh, I wouldn't expect that from them. That's so shocking. Like, oh, you've got to be careful of them. So yeah, I don't know why he doesn't.
He thinks that it's harmful to the movement to hold people to higher standards, which is so bizarre to me because I feel like I'm a better person today because I saw other people living a certain way who advocated that other people do the same thing. And that's why I went vegan. And also that's why I quit buying stuff like fast fashion. So it was the vegans and the vegans who advocated against fast fashion who persuaded me to change my behavior. Like it was the people who were holding people to higher standards who got me to hold myself to a higher standard. Like exactly. I wouldn't have done that if no one was advocating for these things. If people were advocating for like meatless Mondays only, or don't worry about like buying fast fashion, like that doesn't make you a bad person. If that's what I was hearing from people, I would still probably be shopping at freaking H&M, you know, like so I mean that's anecdotal, but like I now live to higher standards because of people advocating.
I find it funny as well, like Humaine Hancock was having this like weird interview with Melanie Joy, and he talked about how this anecdote of how he was shamed out of like because he wore a certain coat, and then Michelle Lowe was reviewing the video and she went, yeah, I bet you don't wear that brand anymore though, do you? Like I bet you don't buy that anymore. I bet you don't take that to events. I bet you don't engage in that action any longer because shame is powerful. You're like, oh yeah,
that was so funny because he like contradicted his point that he was trying to make, because he admitted that like after the fact, at first he was like, oh, like he felt attacked or whatever, but then after the fact he reflected on it and he was like, you know,
exactly,
and it's like that's what people do.
Like that's the thing, because a lot of the time we have so many conversations, you don't remember what was said, but you remember how you feel. So if you can instill a powerful emotion in someone, i.e. shame, because, you know, if they're going to feel, you know, guilty, you know, about that thing they're engaging in, that's going to be a really powerful emotion inside them, and then that will make them think about it. So I don't get this whole I really don't get it. I really don't. Like, and this is the thing as well. This reminds me of a time where he said, should we make fun of like racists and Nazis? And he said, absolutely yes, because they need to be ashamed of what they do. They need to be made a mockery out of and feel bad about it. like of course, I make a mockery out of carnist nonsense, like as does like the freaking vegan sidekick. We make a mockery out of it, just demonstrate how ridiculous it is, because you should feel embarrassed. You should feel guilty and ashamed that you're propping up an industry that literally exploits and kills like up to trillions of sentient beings every single year. You should feel kind of bad about that. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, oh yes, pat on the back. 1 time a week. Yeah, we're not gonna uphold the rights that we even believe in, like by getting someone to do it once a week. How does that uphold the rights of animals? I don't get it. Oh God, pain. Right.
Per se, it's like socialists should be held to a higher standard. I just don't think that, because that's like your belief system. Like, I don't think.
I mean, if we want socialists to win, why wouldn't we hold them to higher standards?
We should, if we want them to win, we should do things that help the movement. Holding people to higher standards can hurt the movement, like how veganism has been hurt by gatekeepers.
How are
Where's the evidence that veganism has been hurt by gatekeepers, please? I'd love to see it. If, like, anything, like, and I have no real evidence of this, right? I just have a feeling about it. If anything, veganism has been hurt by not enough gatekeeping, like with the conflation of plant-based and diets with veganism. Veganism's about, like, literally about animal rights, not exploiting and killing animals. That's all it's about. Yet people, like, think that certain things are vegan, or they think that, oh, I went vegan, you know, for, like, so that I could, like, feel really good, and I just didn't feel very good at the end of it. So, like, I went back. It's just like, you didn't. I just want to know how veganism's been hurt by gatekeepers.
I think that some vegans are a little too gatekeepy, but I think those are in the minority, and the majority of vegans are like the pick-me vegans who I would say are hurting the movement by advocating for meatless Mondays and reducitarianism.
Yeah, and so
because they're like confusing, they're like muddying the waters and confusing the message.
Exactly.
Watering it down.
And to find the really, like, gatekeepy vegans, you have to be within the movement and have found, like, their friend's friend who, like it's very, like, they're really annoying when you find them, because they'll be like, I don't know, drinking unfiltered water isn't vegan or something ridiculous like that, and you'll be like, oh my god. But yeah, I don't know how they've hurt the movement, because if anything, you're showing why we need to gatekeep even more, because you think that a good vegan advocate is someone who doesn't advocate for veganism, which would demonstrate to a degree that you don't know what veganism is. So we need to make it even clearer for people like yourself who have been spoken to about it multiple occasions. Clearly not enough gatekeeping has happened, because you don't get it.
How are we going to push that people, for instance, canvas without making arguments that people...
Do you think veganism has been helped by the hyper-militant vegans who accuse everyone of being, like, super, like, morally repugnant for participating in the meat eating industry?
So this is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying, I think when what you hear when I say morally condemn is something that I'm not saying. I'm not saying that we have to call him a piece of garbage, a walking piece of shit, because he does what he does. I'm using moral condemnation as a vehicle to be able to establish a moral standard. That's what I'm doing.
That guy made a great point. So what he's saying is that condemnation is an inherent part of criticism. Like, all criticism, there's some level of moral condemnation, like, baked into it, because that's what it is. But there's a difference between condemning someone's character and saying they're a horrible person, they're a piece of shit, and saying, hey, what you're doing is immoral for this reason. And Vaush is like, he, like, recognizes the difference, but then when it comes to veganism, his brain just, like, completely, like, he doesn't realize that, like, that what he's saying, how do I say this? Like, he's conflating vegans advocating for veganism with condemning a person's character and, like, shitting all over them.
Yeah, like, I very much, it's very rare that I've gone to someone, you're a piece of shit. Like, I don't think I've gone, like, there's been a couple of people where they said things so abhorrent, I've just gone, sorry, like, you're disgusting. Like, but it usually, like, 97% of the time does not come down to that. It's like, this action is bad, right? This is disgusting. And I make a point in my, like, debates when people are like, you think I'm a bad person? I go, like, I don't know who you are. Like, I don't know what else you do. And it's hard for me to know when the line between bad person and good person is, or neutral person. So I don't bother with that.
Right.
I just look at bad or good actions. And that action's bad. I can't tell you whether or not you're a good or bad person at this point. But yeah, Vaush just, it seems like he's so defensive. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And do you see what I mean? How, like, so I agree that there are some people who are a bit too militant with their message. Like, they could probably tone it down a little without sacrificing the integrity of the message. But his definition of militant would include people like you and I and Earthling Ed, who are simply advocating for animal rights. Like, that's what we're doing, is we're advocating for animal rights. And then in Vaush's eyes, like even if we're super careful not to be accusatory and we make sure to condemn their actions rather than their whole person, like in Vaush takes that as condemnation of his character rather than valid criticism of his behavior.
Which is just like, that's a character thing that he needs to work on. If like it's more of a self-esteem sort of thing where he feels like he's being attacked, and that's not anyone else's fault. It's like, sorry that we're like literally advocating for the thing we believe in. It's like you're trying to paint your wall red, then someone goes, oh, you know, let me like add in like all these colors and stuff, and now you've got like a pink wall, and you're like, no, sorry, I wanted a red wall. Like, it had to be red. How dare you? Like, could we not just have it pink? It's got a bit of red in it. Like, it's just like, yeah, but it's not red anymore. And I specifically am going to have a red wall. So it's like, oh my God, I can't. But yeah, carry on.
The standard that you have set that you say would be bad if he went below that moral standard, I'm just arguing for you to make it a little bit, like, have it go a little bit higher.
It's just it's just about the behavior that ferments the best results. If I thought that you could get really, really good, like, advocacy for socialism by holding this gatekeeping standard to people, then I would advocate for it. I don't, because I think that
I'm
it's
not trying to gatekeep him from being a socialist. I'm not saying he isn't.
Hassan's been set to a standard. It might somehow push him away from being a socialist advocate. Therefore, because he's like, you want him as a socialist advocate, apparently. He's a bit of a donut, but anyway. If you want him as one, therefore, setting him to the standards that he claims to have and that he, like, has a go at other people for doing, so hypocrisy, would be a bad thing. But for me, right, I don't understand the point of advocating, because obviously people who are socialists are advocating for how they wish the world to be. They want to see a world that's fairer in their view. That's what that is, because you're a socialist as well. You want the world to see that. I lean towards that. Oh, politics makes me feel sick, so I can't do. But yeah, you're doing that with the premise. Yeah, you're doing it with the premise that you're going to make a fairer world. Then I don't understand why you wouldn't be interested in hypocrisy if you're looking for a fairer world, if the very people who apparently are supposed to be engaging in the ideology that you're interested in aren't even doing it, because then surely the positive utility that should be being derived from that is not even happening, or would have no intention of happening, even if there were a socialist world. Because I do understand if the world was socialist, Hassan might not even technically have the option to do that, or people would have more options to do that, so it's fairer. But if someone's willing to do something like that, knowing, you know, what they advocate for, and knowing, like, you know, the situation everyone else is in, does that not tell you that they'd be willing to, like, do something bad in a socialist world? Do something selfish in a socialist world, do something hypocritical in a socialist world. So of course we're going to want to manage that and make sure, hey, being hypocritical about this is not a good thing, because the hypocrisy would just be present in a socialist world as well. It'd just be a bit harder.
Yeah, but I also think that in a socialist world, we can't have that, or in an eco-socialist world, like, we can't have that level of consumption.
No, I agree. Like,
possible.
As much as mansions look nice, I could never have one myself, and I just don't understand how one individual could have so much space. I know there's 3 of them, but even then, 3 people in a mansion, like, no,
yeah,
it just can't be done.
Well, you're not gatekeeping from socialists. You're gatekeeping people from socialism by saying that they have a higher set of moral standards to adhere to.
Do you agree that yeah, but I feel like this is getting pretty ridiculous. Do you agree that?
The thing is, though, if someone's not willing to, like, so if you're, like, so with veganism, if they are gatekeeping veganism and going, okay, well, to do this, you don't, you know, involve yourself in the exploitation and killing of animals any day. You don't have these kind of days off, so, you know, where you don't grant animals their right. And that puts somebody off. Why does that mean that the individual who has set those standards suddenly has to, like, slip just because some people are weak in their standards? I don't understand, like, why that is even a thing. Like, if they're being pushed away from a message that's consistent, then, like, you can't just suddenly be like, okay, well, I'll ditch the message then. Again, Vaush would not do this if it came to, like, you know, because he gets annoyed at Destiny for being left-leaning, but, like, not socialist and being pro-capitalism.
Right.
That I'm also gatekeeping people by saying that, like, we shouldn't say the N-word.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
By the way, I love it how he's just given an analogy Vosh knows debate tactics, and he's gone, what does that have to do with it? So you're being dishonest.
Yeah.
That is an analogy. Like, you use them all the time. Hello, ding dong. Put your brain back on.
Well, you just said, like, hey, if we hold people to a higher moral standard, then we're going to have less people in the movement. And by me saying,
wait,
hey,
no,
guys,
no, hold on.
Yeah?
That has nothing to do with what I was saying. Not whether or not we hold people to a higher standard. It's whether or not you think that you're more willing to condemn a person if they join the movement that you want them to be a part of. Like, are you like, like for instance, veganism? And I think
Did you follow that at all? It sounded
Not-
like
not really.
he reworded exactly what that is, because if he had to actually entertain that analogy, it would have shown an inconsistency in his position, because then he would have had to have bitten the bullet and be like, no, we can't say that then.
So I think I follow what the other guy is saying, is like, if say is it gatekeeping to say that if you're a leftist, you shouldn't go around saying the N-word, and if you do go around saying racial slurs, then you're not really a leftist?
Yeah.
Is that hurting the leftist movement?
Apparently.
No.
Apparently.
Like, what?
Yeah, that's why. And I think
It
Vaush
is.
knew exactly what he was saying, and that's why he had to reword it to a freaking essay, because then he would have had to have said, no, I in fact, just let them, because we don't want people not coming to the left just because they're not allowed to use the N-word then without being seen as a hypocrite.
Like, I don't want a leftist movement with racists in it who are going around saying the N-word. Like, that's not a leftist movement.
If you don't gatekeep, you just end up with conservatives in your movement. Like,
exactly. And then it's not leftism anymore.
Yeah, and it's not a movement anymore. Which is why you need gatekeeping, which is why I gatekeep, because I don't want veganism being watered down, diluted to what it has become. In my view, it has been severely diluted. And then to the point where even people like Vaush, who have had loads of conversation on veganism, don't even know what it means. Oh my God. Right, here we go. Let's talk about veganism now. Give us your hot take, Vaush.
This is a perfectly salient example. Online vegan advocacy has been destroyed by...
No, you got destroyed because you bit the bullet on what, like, holocausting trans people in space? So you just, like, freaking, like, demonstrated that the very people who you apparently care so much about, like, you would be willing, because you can't give up your chicken tendies, to, like, infinitely have, like, people you care about, these people you're supposed to stand up the rights for, infinitely killed. Like, it's so sorry, if anyone got destroyed, it was you. Xander Hall, Destiny got destroyed. He had to bite the bullet on, like, killing people in, like, remote indigenous tribes, like, and I just...
So if people don't know what we're talking about, I think you're referencing the ask yourself debate, and also perspective philosophy, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say, is that after he got, like, thoroughly wrecked by both ask yourself and perspective philosophy, he no longer debates vegans. He has it written out in his Discord rules. He refuses to cover the topic of veganism. I wonder why.
Oh,
like,
yeah, vegans got destroyed, mate. They got destroyed. Yeah, the people get banned for talking about veganism, apparently. There's a few people I know who got banned. And he is being, right now, he's bringing up veganism. Like, they're having this discussion about Hassan and wealth and socialism so
and
it
stuff.
lives
And
rent-free in his mind. Yeah.
He keeps bringing up veganism, and yet he says the reason he doesn't want to debate vegans is because it's boring. He doesn't want to talk about it. I'm like, then why are you bringing...
Yeah,
if it's so boring, like, why are you the one interjecting veganism into this conversation?
Yeah, it just comes up, like, it's literally so rent-free in his head. It's so clear, like, my God, right. Oh, next bit.
By the gatekeeping, like, piece of shit, like, moral puritan.
Oh, so hang on. Apparently, we call people pieces of shit, but we haven't done it, but he can call us pieces of shit.
Piece of shit, like, moral puritans who make it insufferable. Like, because to them, going vegan for one day out of every week is, it's like, it's not
That's
enough.
not veganism.
Yeah, like, why would we... like, yeah, and it's funny, he can call us pieces of shit for actually, like, being consistent in our values, and yeah, so it's like, of course we're going to be against that, because that's not veganism. Hello? Oh my god. But yeah, it's fine for him to call us pieces of shit, because the thing is, like, I take that quite personally, because I am an example of that. I do debates all the time, Like, and I deploy the same tactics that, you know, someone like he's been debated by does, you know, I do that. So it's like, apparently we're pieces of shit Puritans for actually upholding the values that we have.
It's an insult, you know, because in order to do that, you have to kind of get in with vegan communities, you know, like nobody started getting into veganism without being at least tangentially close to vegan communities, but they'll hate you for it.
What? You don't have to be in the, I don't understand what he said there. Like, you have to be in the community. Like, no, you don't. Like, you can just.
So I think what he's saying is that, wait, play the next clip, because I think.
Okay.
Because they don't, because they just see you as like a, you know, like, oh, well, now that you're aware of this stuff, you know, now that you're at least partially in it, and you're still like eating meat 6 days out of the week, like, no. But it leads to like really bad outcomes in advocacy.
Okay.
The most success.
So here's this is what, like, he has a fundamental misunderstanding of what veganism is, which is advocating for animal liberation and animal rights. If he thinks that you're partially in it when you eat meat 6 days a week, like, what a fucking low bar. Like, how can you say first of all, people justify their behavior all the time. They'll be like, oh, like, I don't eat that much meat, you know, like, and they might be sympathetic to vegan arguments, but like, if they're still consuming animal products, they're still viewing them as food, as commodities, and that's the problem. Like, yes, it's an insult to animals because it reinforces their inferior status. Like, that's not, you're not partially in it if you still fundamentally view animals as commodities. Like,
And that's the thing, like, you could say that, you could, if we want to, like, dilute everything that much, you could say conservatives are partially in it, you know, regarding socialism, because they care about, you know, freedom. They care about, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So they're partially in it.
Yeah.
So what do you have a problem with them?
So any omnivore is partially vegan. Like, if they eat plant foods, the only exceptions would be like Jordan Peterson, who eats nothing but steak. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well,
so like, everyone's partially vegan, so we shouldn't complain. Like, how many trillion animals are killed every year, despite the fact that everyone on the planet, except for Jordan Peterson and carnivores, everyone on the planet is already doing what Vaush is advocating for, which is like, what?
Vaush seems to do this when he's in an argument he doesn't like. He'll just be like, nothing means anything. Nothing is true. Anything is permitted. What is existence? What is this complicated thing? Why are we here? Are we even here? It's just like, oh my God, like, just trying to muddy everything just so that he can, like, freaking wiggle his way out of a point. It's painful to experience, like.
Successful advocates for veganism have always been the people who are super fucking chill about it. The people who aren't like, you're doing an immoral and bad action if you do X or Y, even if you believe they are. What you do instead is you try to
Okay, wait, pause.
I was just going to say, like, one of the most popular people that people talk about is Gary Yourofsky, who is, like, not a chill vegan. People talk about Joey Carstrong. People talk about, like Ed's chill, but under Vosh's metric, he would not be.
Right.
No, that's just so wrong. He has no idea. You carry on.
But so he says, the wording is so hilarious to me. He says, not the most successful advocates are the ones who are super chill about it, not the ones who are like, you're doing an immoral and bad action if you do X or Y. What?
The weird thing is, though, you can be chill while you say you're doing an immoral action if you're doing X and Y. You can say it in the most chill, be like, I'm not being funny though, man, but like, if you think about it, like, we wouldn't want dogs in that position because that would be a horrific thing to do. And there's no morally relevant difference between dogs and like chickens that would, you know, justify that or make that different to the individual. So to do that to the chicken as well is a horrible thing to do. Like, you can say it like that. That's a chill way to put it. But you're saying the exact thing that apparently you can't do if you're chill.
Into the good positions, you know? Hey, eating vegan isn't as bad as you think it is. You know, we can do better on this. You know, here are some really great recipes. Actually, did you know that eating vegan is cheaper than da-da-da-da-da? If you took that attitude towards Hassan doing advocacy, then...
Can I just mention that not once there were the actual victims of the movement and the whole incentive for the movement even mentioned?
Yes.
Oh
Hey, Hassan, did you know that being a super-duper rich millionaire means that you have lots of money you can give to causes? Oh, boy. Did you know you don't have to sit there watching YouTube videos for 12 hours? You can actually like do something.
Okay, can I respond?
Yeah, but like that's
Hey, Vosh, did you know that you can just stop eating dead animals? And
Yeah.
vegan food? Like,
hey Vosh, you know that like if you think it's wrong to exploit and kill an animal, maybe paying for it isn't something that you should engage in.
I'm just stumped as to why. I mean, it comes down to me personally. For why would we care about furthering a political cause or getting people politically activated if they have no moral obligation to do anything? Like, what is the point of getting more people involved if there's no moral standard for them to do anything?
Because if they get involved, they do more good things than they were doing before.
So you just hope that people do things.
No,
is that what you do?
Encourage them to do good things. You can...
And hope.
I don't know how you think social movements work, but yes, encouraging people to do good things is generally how all political I mean,
I don't know if you know how like political movements worked, but how do you think the feminists like got women's rights? Like, how do you think like loads of movements have had those changes? They did direct action. They disrupted people.
Like he needs to read Martin Luther King's autobiography and learn about the civil rights movement, because the civil rights movement, people fucking hated Martin Luther King. They thought he was the most radical extremist. They read Letter from a Birmingham Jail, Bosch. Like, you are being the white moderate in this.
Like, read on Malcolm X. Like, he was like the more like extreme, and he had like a lot of success. But yeah, even Martin Luther King was too much apparently.
Oh my god, just the arrogance of saying like, do you know how social movements work?
Do you know? Like,
it's like,
do you?
You clearly don't.
Like, oh my god.
Like, the whole, what's that quote? There's a really good quote by Martin Luther King that's like, we have to bring the tension to the surface for it to be dealt with. Like, we have to, it's like about negative peace versus positive peace, and how he's being criticized by the white moderate for not advocating in a nice way or whatever. It's just like, it's literally Vaush right there.
Literally Vaush.
You could go the fascist route. You could scare them if you want. I mean, you
could go the fascist route and scare them. Like, I'm sorry, it's just like, please read something by someone, just anyone. I just can't. Like, at this point, I don't know who to recommend to him. It's too much.
Other options, if you want, we could lie about like illegals at our border, and we could convince them that forming right-wing militias are the only way to say what. Yes, obviously, encouraging people is what you do, and you can criticize them when they do bad, which I do. But there's a difference between criticism and condemnation.
He doesn't understand the difference between criticism and condemnation, because he's conflating the two. Right, he's conflating them.
There's a difference between tone, attitude, affect, and there's certainly
you're right. He just doesn't understand the difference. Oh my god.
And that's the end. So I made a video about Vaush a long time ago. It was basically addressing his argument about there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, therefore I'm not obligated to be vegan. Not once in that video did I condemn him as a person, say he was a bad person, say he was stupid or a piece of shit. Like, I was literally just criticizing his views. Like, that's it. And I provided...
You're a piece of shit Puritan for doing that, Catherine, so, like, check yourself, okay? Like...
So, like, yeah, I will admit, there is some level of moral condemnation in my criticism, because I'm condemning his behavior, which he says we can criticize them when they do bad, which I do. Okay, is paying for pigs to be thrown into gas chambers and for babies to be stolen from them and slaughtered when they reach market weight? Like, is that not bad? Is that not doing bad? Like, if I can't criticize someone for supporting such an atrocity, which Vaush has admitted elsewhere, he thinks that we will look back in the future and view this as a Holocaust. If I can't criticize people for supporting a freaking Holocaust, like, what can I criticize them for?
I know.
That's acceptable.
I know. Like,
Vaush.
In quantity alone, there are the most victims on this planet due to animal agriculture. Like, in quantity alone, if we're looking at it in that measure. So it's got the most victims by number. If that can't be criticized, then I don't know really what can be. Like, I don't. And yeah, well, this is funny because I remember him having a debate with someone and there was a little stream clip of him saying, yeah, well, of course, you know, animals are like, you know, killed and tortured. It's horrific. So that's like negative utility. But there would be negative utility if you took it all away because people really like cheese. And he said it unironically. And I nearly threw up. Oh, but luckily this video, like half of the video is just dislikes. I don't think people were very happy with him. Someone said Vosh laying the groundwork for when he buys a multi-million-dollar house as well. I couldn't help but think, yeah, a lot of like why he's defending it is because he probably would like one in the future. Right, Catherine, was there anything else on this noodle?
No, that's it.
So I'm spared now. Everything's fine. I can go about my day. No more Vosh. Thank you so much.
Yo, how when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them, say me no eat no fish, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them, say that I'm a vegan, man. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them.